Good evening. This is Dawn Schwering, and I'd like to take a few moments to go over my interactive module planning template for this week's assignment. My lesson topic is linear equations. I wanted to give you a little background on my topic and why I chose it. In the evenings, I teach adult learners who are pursuing their high school diploma equivalency. And many of them really struggle with the concept of algebra. And I wanted to put something together that would help them understand the relevance of the material and how it can apply to their everyday lives. So I thought this was a great basis for the project. So I'm going to use a newly created website to house the learning module. My first learning objective is that students will be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide positive and negative numbers. It seems that negative numbers are a bit of a challenge for this group, so I thought this was a good starting point for the topic. My main point is adding, subtracting, and multiplying and dividing negative numbers. I'm going to have the students review positive and negative numbers. There's a great a great YouTube video by Math Antics that I will have them view. No formal assessment on this part. Then I'm going to focus on using a number line to understand negative numbers, because a lot of them struggle with the concept that the larger the number, even on the negative side, that it is larger. The number line gives them a visual to understand that concept that larger negative numbers are actually less. So I plan to have some kind of link on the website for a little quiz, a little interactive practice for them after they have that opportunity to draw their own number line and use that as a strategy for helping them calculate. Then we'll talk about adding and subtracting, and again, work on that skill on paper. And there'll be some examples, maybe a screencast video, possibly another website for them to go to. They will self-assess the skill by comparing answers that'll be provided for the practice problems. And then we'll go into the concept of multiplying and dividing negative numbers. Again, they'll practice their skill on paper. We'll give them some technology, maybe a link to an online calculator in case they don't have one handy. I think Khan Academy is another great example of, or another great resource for them to see something in action and hear the explanation behind it. And again, they'll self-assess the skill by comparing their answers with the ones provided. The second learning objective will be to solve linear equations using a three-step process. We'll introduce the three-step process, and they'll review some written material, and some practice skills on the website, another YouTube video from Math Antics on this topic, and they'll practice the skill again with some links to some interactive sites, maybe some practice questions. We'll talk about adding and subtracting variable terms to get all variables on the same side of the equal sign. Again, online calculator to help them, because I'm not really focusing on the skill of computation, but more the application of the math skill. Again, they'll self-assess with comparing answers. Then we'll move on to isolating the variable term, and then thirdly, isolating the variable term by dividing both sides of the equation. Again, the process is very much the same, where they will possibly go to a link to Khan Academy or another site, use an online calculator, do some practice, do some self-assessing. The third learning objective will be when students, they'll apply the principles to solving linear equations in real-world situations. This is what I think is key to the whole lesson, because with adult learners, motivation for these skills is a little bit tricky, and it's very key, because they really want to know, why in the world do I need to know this? More so than students that are younger and still in school. So I really want to show them real world examples and why the skill is very relevant. So we'll move on to real world situations. They'll review some examples of situations such as buying gas. How long does it take to drive if you're driving 60 miles an hour? There's many video links and other written examples from the website to show everyday situations where they can really start thinking about this isn't just seeing some numbers and letters on a page, but really applying it to something that means something to them. We'll also talk about in a subpoint recognizing words that signal addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. We'll have the students review a table of words associated with each of the mathematical operations, link to a screencast of narrated examples, and how words translate into math operations. No formal assessment here necessarily, but we'll may go through some practice. I also want them to focus on understanding the dependent and independent variables. So there is another Math Antics YouTube video that we'll link through the website, and they'll be able to do some practice questions, and they'll assess their own progress based on the score from the interactive practice. The last subpoint would be determining a linear equation. They'll be given various examples of real-world problems through the website content, and they'll determine the equation. Online calculator will be some technology integration, and they'll complete an assessment via a link from the website, and this will kind of pull everything together where we'll look at the different pieces that they've learned and ultimately have them take possibly an ad from a local grocery store, do some calculating on buying various pounds of produce or something to that effect, possibly also a trip calculator, just different things that really would come into play and be very relevant to their everyday lives. We move further down on the template. We talk about the content resources. I plan to build the module for my website so that students can access the resources and materials included in the module. And then in terms of putting all the technology tools and resources together, my intent is to use some or all of the following resources that are the resources that are listed on the page, although I can't say this is an exhaustive list because every day I'm discovering new things and possibly new ways to integrate that. So there may be some that don't appear here, and there may be some that appear here that I decide not to use later on, but I know I'll use Weebly because that's where the website's located. Video Scribe if I want to put together an interactive piece that's not an outside YouTube video. Possibly Audacity because of the ability to record audio and do some editing. PowerPoint, Kahoot, and Quizzes are great external links for practice. And of course YouTube, because I know there are videos that I'm already going to link there. So that's a quick assessment and review of the assignment. Really looking forward to designing the final product and putting it to use actually in my classroom. Thank you very much.